Opposition spokesperson Andrew Rosindell.
Thank you, Mr. Weston. It's a pleasure to serve under your chair. And I'd like to commend the member for Cities of London and Westminster for securing this debate today, defending so courageously her constituent Jimmy Lai. Jimmy Lai is not merely the honourable member's constituent, he is one of us. He is a British citizen, and as such he deserves the full protection, advocacy and diplomatic support that the United Kingdom extends to all its nationals under threat abroad. And I'd like to thank all honourable members today that have spoken up for Jimmy, but others are political prisoners unlawfully detained, and to confirm that His Majesty's opposition will always support the government in all of its efforts to free British citizens that are locked up unlawfully in parts of the world where they have regimes that carry out those kind of atrocities. Mr. Lai, of course, is currently imprisoned in Hong Kong under Beijing's draconian and unaccountable national security law, a law that has criminalised dissent and dismantled every safeguard that once distinguished Hong Kong from the Chinese mainland. Jimmy Lai is being persecuted for the crime of believing in democracy, for founding Apple Daily, one of Hong Kong's most popular pro-democracy newspapers, for calling out the encroachment of the Chinese Communist Party into the life of the city that once, under the British Crown, enjoyed liberty, autonomy and a rule of law. And he's done this all at the age of 77, despite his serious health conditions. Mr. Weston, Beijing has trampled on the promises made in the Sino-British Joint Declaration, a treaty lodged at the United Nations and signed in good faith. That agreement guaranteed Hong Kong's freedom, its rule of law and its way of life. But today those guarantees lie in tatters, and people like Jimmy are paying the price. And yet, despite the cruelty inflicted upon him, Jimmy Lai's spirit remains unbroken. His quiet defiance calls to mind the courage of dissidents during the final years of the Cold War, acts of resistance that were once welcomed and celebrated by leaders across the democratic world, not least by our own former Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher. The same unwavering belief in liberty should, I believe, stir the conscience of every free nation today, just as it did then, and it should shame us into action. Mr. Weston, the British government has said that Jimmy Lai's case is a priority, and I welcome that. But I must ask the Minister, what does the government mean by priority in practice? How does the government define the success in the Jimmy Lai case? Jimmy Lai's release, or simply raising the issue diplomatically? Surely Jimmy Lai's case needs to move from being seen as simply a complex consular case to one which has serious geopolitical ramifications. Because from where I stand, the message coming from Downing Street is worryingly vague. It appears, as I say this with regret, that defence of human rights is being quietly traded for economic expediency. What's worse is that what is happening to Jimmy Lai is not an isolated injustice. It is part of a wider campaign by Beijing to silence criticism, intimidate the diaspora and exert extraterritorial pressure on sovereign nations, including our own. So, will the Minister call on the Prime Minister to meet with the Lai family, listen to their story and understand what is at stake? We are concerned that Jimmy's health is deteriorating, and as every day passes, we lose time. If the government is not prepared to stand by Jimmy Lai, and I'm hopefully today the Minister will confirm that they are, then the United Kingdom simply looks weak. We must be prepared to defend our British citizens, our values and our international obligations, or we look away and by our silence give permission to authoritarian regimes to target our people, suppress the truth and redefine the rules of the international order. And so I say to the Minister, the world is watching. And so is Jimmy Lai in his cell in Hong Kong, imprisoned, not because he committed a crime, but because he dared to be free.